This fence post has been in the ground for 11 years. No pressure treatment, no synthetic sealant, nothing from a hardware store shelf with a warning label on the side. Just this, a dark resinous liquid that smells like a campfire in a pine forest at the same time. Brushed on twice 11 years ago. Pull it out of the ground and look at the base. No rot, no soft spots, no crumbling solid wood, $4 of material one afternoon, and 11 years of wet soil and freeze-thaw cycles haven't touched it. I'm not going to tell you this is some lost ancient secret that nobody knows about. It's sitting on the shelf at your hardware store right now, usually near the barn paint. Most people walk right past it without knowing what it actually does, what it's actually for. Pine tar, the real Viking one. And the reason it works is honestly kind of beautiful once you understand it. So let me just show you. You already know the smell. You've walked past a pine forest on a hot summer day and caught that deep, warm, resinous scent in the air. That's the same compound. The tree produces it naturally to resist moisture, to repel insects, to fight fungal rot from the inside out. Pine tar takes those protective resins and puts them back into cut wood that no longer has a living tree making them. It doesn't coat the surface from the outside. It soaks into the wood fibers and re-impregnates them with the same chemistry the wood had when it was alive. That's the difference between pine tar and a painted-on sealant. A sealant is a barrier sitting on top waiting to crack and peel. Pine tar is the wood's own defense system restored. And here's the part that gets me every time I think about it. The Norwegian stave churches, entirely wooden structures, no stone foundation, built in the 11th and 12th centuries, are still standing today. Exterior surfaces coated in pine tar. The oldest surviving one has been standing since approximately 1130 AD. 900 years, harsh Nordic winters, heavy snow loads, and the wood is still there. That's not a product to claim. That's a building you can go visit. The history of this goes further back than most people expect. Archaeologists near Uppsala, Sweden have found pine tar production pits, radiocarbon dated to 540 BCE. Not the Viking Age, 500 years before it. By the time the Vikings were building their ships, tar production had already scaled into what researchers now describe as industrial operations. Larger kiln sites from 680 to 900 AD could produce 50 to 80 gallons of tar in a single burn. And in the Viking harbor at Hedeby, in what is now northern Germany, archaeologists found over 90 tar brushes, not tar pots, the application tools. They were treating their ships, their ropes, their rigging, and their timber buildings on a regular schedule the same way a modern shipyard applies anti-fouling paint before a vessel goes back in the water. By the 1600s, Stockholm tar had become Sweden's third most valuable export. The British Royal Navy ran on it. American colonists supplied it from the pine forests of the southeast. The resin became so embedded in North Carolina's economy that residents earned the nickname Tar Heels, which stuck. It was not a niche craft. It was the petroleum of its era. And then synthetic wood preservatives arrived. Pressure-treated lumber, chemical sealants, petroleum-based stains. They were easier to manufacture at scale, easier to sell at a margin. The knowledge of what pine tar actually does and how to use it properly stopped being passed down. Not because it stopped working, because it was too cheap and too simple to build a business around. The buildings treated with it are still standing. The knowledge had to find its own way back. Here's the parts list. And this is genuinely it. Pine tar. One can search genuine pine tar on Amazon, and brands like Austin or Sage Restoration come up. Or check near the barn paint at a farm supply store. A 500 ml can runs $8 to $12 and treats a serious amount of wood at the 50-50 mix ratio. For a fence post, a tool handle, a garden shed, or raised bed frame, one can goes a long way. Purified linseed oil. Not the boiled linseed oil from the regular paint aisle. Purified linseed oil sold specifically for natural wood finishes. A small bottle runs $4 to $6. The linseed oil thins the tar so it penetrates deeper into the wood fibers instead of staying at the surface. Don't substitute the unpurified version. It can go rancid inside the wood and interfere with curing. A stiff bristle brush. You've probably got one somewhere. That's it. The $4 version of this is the small amounts you'll use from both containers on a single project. Total material cost for a fence post or a set of tool handles under $4. Easy. Here's how it goes together. Mix pine tar and purified linseed oil in a 50-50 ratio. Equal parts stirred well. Now here's the thing most instructions skip. Apply it warm. Set the container in a warm water bath for 20 minutes or warm it gently on a radiator. Warm tar flows into the wood like it belongs there because it does. Cold tar is thick and syrupy and stays near the surface. The difference in penetration between cold and warm application is significant enough that it's worth the extra 20 minutes every time. Apply to dry bare wood only. If there's an existing synthetic coating, paint, varnish, polyurethane, strip it first. The tar needs to reach the wood, not sit on top of old finish. Brush the mixture on with a stiff bristle brush, working it into the grain. You're not painting a surface. You're massaging a treatment into a material. Use pressure, work it in. Apply one thin coat. Let it soak in for several hours, then wipe off any excess still sitting on the surface before it skins over. Now here's the part nobody mentions until after they've done it. It's deeply satisfying in a way that's genuinely hard to explain until you experience it. The smell of warm pine tar, rich, resinous, slightly smoky, like a forest and a fireplace at the same time, fills the space around you while you work. The brush strokes are slow and deliberate, and you can see the wood changing as you go. Pale or gray grain going warm, amber brown right under your hand, soaking it in. People who do this once tend to go looking for more wood to treat. That's not a sales pitch. It's just consistently what happens. Let it cure for 48 to 72 hours, then apply a second coat the same way. 2 coats minimum for anything going into the ground. Fence posts, footings, raised bed corners. Put a third coat on the buried section before it goes in. Here's the one thing people get wrong when they first do this. They apply it too thick. Pine tar is a penetrating treatment, not a film builder. Thick coats sit on the surface, stay tacky, attract dust and dirt, and can bleed back out in hot weather. Thin coats fully absorbed are the whole point. If it's still sticky after 24 hours, you put on too much. Wipe off the excess and wait. What's soaked in is doing the work. What's sitting on top is just mess. One honest note, exterior wood in full sun and driving rain will benefit from a refresh every 1 to 3 years. Not because the treatment fails. The resins that penetrated deep into the fibers the first time are still there. What you're refreshing is the surface layer that weathering gradually depletes. For anything sheltered, tool handles, interior timbers, items kept out of the weather, a single proper treatment lasts many years with no attention at all. The Norwegian stave churches get retarred on a maintenance schedule. That's not a failure. That's a maintenance protocol for a 900-year-old wooden building. The material doing the work is a brush and a can of pine tar. The thing about this that keeps sitting with me is how far back it goes and how many people figured it out independently. Celtic iron workers in Sweden were burning pine tar from root pits 500 years before the Vikings launched a single ship. Vikings treated the vessels that reached North America around 1000 AD with it. Medieval builders in Norway and Sweden used it on structures that are still standing. Indigenous communities across Northern Europe and North America use various tree resins for the same purpose on tools, canoes, and shelters, arriving at the same chemistry from different directions. And somewhere in the last 100 years, as the hardware store filled up with branded products in branded containers, this knowledge stopped being passed down. The tap worked, the pressure-treated lumber was right there, and the old knowledge just quietly sat on a shelf and gathered dust. $4 one afternoon, and that knowledge is back in your hands. I don't know what your situation is or why you're watching this. Maybe it's the fence that's starting to go soft at the base. Maybe it's the garden shed that's showing its age. Maybe it's the tool handles or the raised beds or the wooden boat or the barn siding. Maybe you just wanted to know what the Vikings actually used and ended up here at midnight, pulling on a question you couldn't stop following. It doesn't matter. It works either way. Now you know how. If this story changed how you look at the wood in your world, please subscribe and like the channel. We are unearthing the history they tried to bury. Plant the seeds of the future. The next treasure will be revealed soon.